Adam Savage here from Tested. I am on the set of The Expanse, and I'm sitting next to Amos, aka Wes Chatham. Wes, how are you, brother?
How you doing, brother?
It's good to see you.
You know, before we start, I want to say something. I so much appreciate the love and support that you give the show, and like getting to meet you and hang out with you. And I got to go do one of your panels at Comic-Con, and there's just an energy around you and a fanship that everybody responds to. So I'm really glad that you look out for us, man. I really do appreciate it.
I feel so at home and so welcomed here into this big family.
You're part of the family.
It is super much a family.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, given that when we first met, you guys were just in the second season of the show.
Right.
Now you're shooting the 5th season, so you've had like 4.5 years to get inside Amos, who was already your favorite character in the books, which is like one of my favorite things.
Right.
How has it been to spend so much time working inside Amos?
Enormously creatively satisfying. Being able to spend 5 years and really working on doing the work and putting together, and The Churn is a novella that's based off Amos's childhood. That has always been the foundation that I worked off of and kind of created the character. And now that we're into season 5, and we're actually physically going back to visit the Churn situation, his childhood, to deal with demons from his past. I've done all this work and everything, so it's almost a part of me now. It's like inside of me.
Amos's journey in season 3 strikes me as this set of pennies dropping in his head as he kind of realizes, well, actually, there's a great David Mamet film called Spartan. Val
Spartan.
Kilmer plays a special forces guy, and at one point, a penny drops in him, and he realizes he shouldn't just do his job, he needs to understand his job. And somebody else says to him, you're not a planner, you're a shooter. And I think that season 3, Amos realizes he might not just be a shooter. So I'm curious about what season 4 might bring for Amos's arc.
What's been interesting with the Rocinante journey is that at first it was Amos's relationship was really focused on Naomi. And that stems from his first really important relationship, that was Lydia from his childhood. And so it kind of transferred to Naomi. And then as they've been through what they've been through, he's kind of, his sphere of influence is broadened. And so now it's the rest of the Rocinante. We are now all connected, and they're in that same place. And so as that goes, as that's kind of developed, he's changed emotionally in a way that some of the circuits are coming on board. Yeah. And he realizes that through trauma and through the things that he's been as a childhood, that a lot of things has been shut down and ripped off. As you get into season 4, you see the circuit starting to show, and it's almost more than he can take. That
must be really exciting as an actor to be able to sort of play those. In the scale that you get to in television.
This character, more than anything I've ever done, is endlessly fascinating to me. In each season, you know, we're in season 5 right now, and I still have butterflies in my stomach getting to play this character, and I still work as hard today as I did on day 1 of like really trying to get in and understand it. I actually took The Churn, and I remember sitting down and gave it to a psychologist, and like sit down and really went through and said, if this happened to somebody, how does this manifest in physical behavior and mannerisms, and what is the thing, how does he interact with people, like socially, what does that look like? And so, 5 years into it now, it's just inherent in me.
Over this time, you've had also a huge and dedicated fandom, and you've been doing a lot more cons in the last couple of years. I'm curious about what perspective you've gotten on the show from the fans, from the reaction that it's been getting from them.
That's a really good question, because this show, I've learned a lot in this show, and it's kind of, and I was mentioning this to you earlier, there's something about The Expanse, in the Expanse community. Every person that has came up to me, no matter where I am, it's always been a great conversation. So if somebody comes up and it's like, hey man, I like the show, and I like The Expanse, and then I immediately get like, oh, well because I've had such great experiences in talking, and being able to go to Comic-Con, and with this show, realizing that this is this huge celebration of just stories and things that we all love, and we're coming together to really discuss and to dress and to just really celebrate these stories. And being a part of that, then we now have a connection with the fans and a relationship with this show unlike anything I've ever done before. And so I feel every time we show up, I just have such a sense of gratitude for our fan relationship and connection to the show, and I feel supported. And I know that they have our back, obviously, you know, with everything that happened. And so, you know, it's a really wonderful experience, and I haven't, experienced anything like that. Something about the Expanse is really incredible.
With every great ensemble cast, you end up with characters that are also sort of archetypes, but not necessarily that slot right into a classic archetype mold. I'm curious what you notice about Amos from the type of fans that gravitate towards him as a character.
Well, you know what's really fascinating to me is that because I did the detailed work and tried to be as honest about, like, if this really happened to somebody, how is that going to manifest, how that's going to look. I also had an acting teacher. I had an acting teacher that told me. Her name was Sandra Seacat. She said something that was really interesting to me. She said that every character that comes to you, it's kind of from a spiritual perspective, everything that comes to you, there are things that character is working on and dealing with that is parallel with your own things that you're working and dealing with. And even if you're unaware of it. And so, I don't know what I have in common with that, what I have in common with Amos. But ultimately, I know as honest and truthfully as I can tell the story and do it, there are people, no matter how subtle the mannerisms or characteristics, people come up to me and say, listen, I understand, I know what Amos is going through, and I had similar situations, and I see that through what you're doing. And I didn't do it thinking that anybody would even pick up on it.
You're not putting down signposts.
And they pick up every time. And they say, is this what he's going through? I don't want to talk about it because then it's like, and they say, is this? And I'll say, yeah. And they say, this has happened to my brother, or this is, whatever. And so there's a certain kind of connection of being honest about this mental health issue, and this, it's really fascinating.
That must be very gratifying. I mean, we find succor in diving into these narratives that move us. Now, The Expanse is also a super physical show. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of zero gravity.
Wait till you see season 4, bro.
Really? Because
wait till you see season 5.
I just watched the trailer in which you are getting ready to fight with a gentleman who I believe might be a villainous type.
Someday I think you and I are going to end up bloody.
I'm free right now.
And I'm just wondering, it's got to be really difficult to both act and emote and serve the character at the same time as you are literally, effectively ballroom dancing with your fists, right?
Right. Yeah.
Talk to me about what it's like to do detailed stunt work on wires and act.
Well, the thing, doing stunts through Amos's perspective, it's always a little bit more. So the way that we kind of design it is he is a talented amateur. So we want it to be as brutal and as violent and sloppy as it could be. So it's not as choreographed. There's a lot of room for, particularly there was something that we just did where it is the most primal, visceral, clawing, eyes, hair, stabbing that anything I've ever done. And at the end of the day, you feel it because you don't want it to it's not a kung fu scene. He's not a karate master. He's just a guy that has this ability to tolerate a lot of pain, and he's can be more violent than the next person.
Each new season brings new characters, and having spent a lot of time on these sets, I know what a family you guys are. How is it welcoming new people into the family every season?
That's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things is reading the beginning of a season, reading the pilot, or reading as many scripts as they have available, and seeing all these new great characters and thinking, oh, who are they going to cast for that? And then getting to meet all these people, and it's like, oh, that was a good choice, and then bringing them into the family, and making them feel welcome and making them feel at home. And we've been so lucky, particularly in season 4 and this season 5, of getting such talented people to come be a part of the show and work with us. And I just feel lucky that we get to work with all these people.
When I watch scenes between you and other actors, specifically where there's activation, or the hint of violence, I start to think to myself that for you and the scene partner you're with, There must be a moment when you both know that this take is clicking on all cylinders. Does that feel as good as I hope it does?
It really does. It really does. I think I had a scene in season 4 where I was with another character, and in that character we have a disagreement, and there is a punch in that scene, and we were so into it and so caught up into it that character ended up punching me in the face. And the thing is because it happens in the scene, and the thing is we finished the scene and it felt great, and I didn't realize until they told me after, like, are you okay? And I said, why? They go, you really got punched in the face. And it just felt so natural in the scene and doing that. And he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's like one of the best takes we've ever had. You know, it really, really worked because I was so connected and so into it, and that happened. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if you can tell what scene it is.
I can't wait. How important is it also, over this period of time, I assume your crew has remained mostly the same.
Yeah.
That's got to make it a very comfortable atmosphere to sort of step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and it's rare. So we've had probably 95% of the original crew 5 years ago. We're going in our 5th year. I had a son. My son was born the 3rd week of shooting the first season. He turns 5 next week.
Amazing.
It's 5 years.
Right.
You know, I'm like, what? But so to go to what you say, we've all been together for 5 years, all of us, the crew, people we work with and everything. And we've had kids, people got married, all these things. And so you become so connected and you have such relationship. And Steven and I were discussing this yesterday, but also working on a show that is demanding as this and all these moving parts. If you work together with somebody 5 years, you're going to get good at what you're doing.
Right.
You're going to have a connection and a relationship that you just know.
A shorthand as well.
A shorthand and everything. So when I show up on set here, I feel supported, I feel prepared, and I'm focused and ready to go. Sometimes you show up on a new set and it's like you have to meet everybody. The energy of like, hey, how you doing? Oh, nice to meet you, but you're trying to figure out what you're doing. This, man, like we've done it for so long that we just really locked into it.
Well, I mean, it becomes part of your life, and life has its ups and downs too. I would imagine that there are days you show up feeling a little less than ready for everything,
Right.
and everyone else holds you up and helps you move forward.
Yeah, and I get my energy. I'm an extrovert. Like I get my talking to people and everything. So no matter how I feel, when I come and I see all my friends and people that I've been working with for a long time, that I feed off that energy, and it gets me up, and it gets me going. And so there are days when I'm coming to work and it's like, oh man, I'm it's tired on this scene or whatever, and then I show up and run into the as soon as hey man, how you doing? And it's like and then you're just ready to start working.
Were there any props in season 4 that you got to interact with that were really fun? That were
My favorite prop is the automatic shotgun.
Yeah.
You got to play with that one. Yeah. I really there was we have some new vehicles in season 4 that are really fun to drive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like wheeled vehicles.
The wheeled vehicles, and they have, and it's kind of controlled by a joystick.
Yeah.
And it has these big, like, monster truck tires on them that goes over the rocks or whatever.
And it's real, it's practical. So
it's practical, it's real.
Nice.
It's literally, so you're like in a go-kart and you're laid back like this. You're driving it like you would, like the old Atari,
right.
Like doing something like old Atari. You're driving it, but it has these big wheels and it's muddy and it's water, so and you're driving. That was fun. That was a lot of fun driving that.
I loved the show when you guys started. I love it so much more now. I can't wait for season 4. Brother, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother.